Hope so. Well, good afternoon. It's not easy to speak after Richard, but I'll do my best. And thank you for the invitation. I don't usually get to speak about the company itself. I get to speak about its products to customers and partners and suppliers around the world. But it's a nice opportunity, and I hope to share with you a little bit of what we've been doing. When trying to prepare this on the way from Dubai, on the plane, I was, what am I going to speak about? And I thought, why not talk about the base idea, how we came up with the idea of creating the company, and what's the general idea behind all the products and behind all the ventures we've been doing. And so that's what I decided to do. And the idea is very simple: collective intelligence. It's a very simple concept, and also a very powerful concept. And I think let's break it down. So it's basically about what collectively, people collectively can do, and about what each one individually can contribute to the collective. So very simple. Now, how do we bring this into our world, I'm from IT, okay, I'm from software. How do we bring this into software, electronics, engineering, and so forward? Today it's very simple. So collective, it's all about the network, right? We're all connected nowadays. It's, communications everywhere. Everything, all devices are connected. And it's about CPUs. It's about processing capabilities, right? So we wanted to do something that enabled us to have processing everywhere, in every type of device, everything you can think of, and also have all of those collectively connected. That was the founding idea. That's why the company, it's called TechEver. It's technologies for the Evernet. Evernet is processing everywhere and everything connected. So we kind of saw this. This was back in 2001, okay? So it wasn't, cell phones were not as easily available as they are today. And we saw this everywhere, and we still do, You see social networks, it's about the people, right? 1 billion. You see swarming, you see little robots communicating with each other and doing a lot of stuff. You see, something so important to new companies today, crowdfunding. It's all about us collectively falling in love with a project and funding it, $1 at a time. So you see this concept everywhere. But how do you go to market? How do you apply this? And so, again, we were all engineers in the beginning, so markets and applications weren't really our thing. We were more about software and bits and bytes. So we started thinking, how are we going to start? And one thing we knew, because we were doing our masters and PhDs in this area, enterprise software. How do we apply this? So we basically, the first idea of how to go to market with this idea was, learning from what we were studying. Companies are about, you guys know all about this much more than I do, but companies are about processes and organization and so forward. And how do we engage people in these processes and in these how do you engage people working together? How do you get collective intelligence on top of processes? And so our idea, translating into a more technical thing, was basically to build a product that would allow us to get everybody working together on a correct and formal process architecture. So this is, translating this into easy language. It's basically bringing processes to people. So we basically built it took us a few years, but we built a huge software platform that basically allows people to have software on their cell phones, on their tablets, on their PCs. Remember, back in 2001, we didn't have tablets, right? So the computing platforms of each age to engage in doing stuff together. Okay? This was the beginning of the company. And throughout the years, we applied this to multiple areas. We applied it to energy. Those of you, well, all of you use electricity at home, and you have EDP as a supplier of that. So they all use EDP. All technicians use this platform to do what they do. We have mobile banking systems on top of this. Hundreds and hundreds of customers across the world using this software. So we spread to multiple areas. We also began opening up offices in other countries. We opened up in the US. Today we have an office in Palo Alto, so in the heart of the Silicon Valley. We opened up in Brazil, of course, because it was an easier step for us in terms of language. We opened up in China, which was not an easy step for us in terms of language. So we have a couple of companies today in Beijing, headquartered in Beijing. We just recently opened up in the UK. And we ended up creating multiple spin-offs focusing on different market segments, but all focused around this product, around this same technology, just applying it to different types of organizations, different types of processes, different types of people. And we did great. So we ended up doing a lot of money and selling a lot and entering more and more customers, having more and more users. Today we have hundreds of thousands of users using this technology, which is great. But as Richard was saying before, you tend to want to risk a lot, and you tend to want to do more. And we weren't quite satisfied with applying this concept only in the enterprise sector. After a few years, it becomes a little bit dull. And so, how can we apply this to other areas? And we started doing it. So one of the areas we applied it was, this is actually an ongoing project, smart cities. We're all hearing about this. How can we apply it? So a few years back, we started investing in this and applying this technology, the same technology, again, distributed computing, communication across everything, to stuff that would allow us, technology that would allow us to just, live better in a city, get more mobile, save more on energy, engage with each other, etc., etc. So basically, we just did the first trial of this here in Lisbon with a very simple mobility system, but where basically you can just use your cell phone to do a lot of stuff, to hire a bike and to get from point A to point B, communicating with your friends that use the same system. So this is an ongoing project, and it's another example. We did more crazier things, or at the time they seemed a little bit crazy. So we entered an area called autonomous systems, autonomy, where we are building air, land, and water autonomous systems. So planes, for example. This was the first product we started developing. And because we basically believe this area is prone to innovation. There are a lot of companies working, mainly American, Israeli companies working in this area, but they're all focused on building planes and building submarines and building robots. And what we really want about this is how these planes and submarines and robots communicate with each other to deliver something. Okay? So we basically started, we usually make a joke about this, and we say our vehicles are routers with wings, because basically that's what they are. For us, it's a bunch of electronics that we developed from scratch that fly or walk or roll or swim, but basically communicate with each other. That's what's important for us. And so we started this venture in 2007, and we ended up launching the first product in Farnborough last year. The Farnborough Air Show is the largest air show in Europe, probably second largest in the world. And we ended up doing the first ever UAV flights at an air show of this kind. So it was interesting. That's the little guy. So it's the smallest. Well, that plane there. It's the smallest plane we currently build. We then do big birds like 10-meter wingspan planes and stuff like that. So big guys. And it's interesting because now we're getting into heavier stuff and getting into the military market, getting into the security market, besides all the civilian type of applications. It's an easy market, as you can imagine, with all the American and Israeli companies. So it's been quite interesting, but a big challenge. On the other side, communications are basically at the heart of pretty much everything. And so we started looking at security and military communications also, which we all think the military world lives in the future, but it doesn't. It lives in the past. So you have more processing capability in your pocket than most of the military vehicles today. And so we started doing exactly the same thing. So we created a company called TechEver Communication Systems that's building military radios and security radios, radios for security forces that communicate, by the way, with the UAVs and with the robots and with the submarines. And that's the whole idea. You get everything engaged. In this case, it's not machines, it's people. It's soldiers or firefighters or policemen. But they all contribute to the same mission. That's the idea, collective intelligence. Okay? And we always looked into space and thought we ought to do something for space. And so we created a company 2 years ago called TechEver Space. Well, 3 years ago, 2010, called TechEver Space. And the focus was exactly the same. If you look into space, again, we look at Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff like that, and we think these guys are way into the future. Again, they aren't. If you look at telecom in the Earth, it's much, much more advanced than telecom in space. And most of people don't know that. And so a concept as simple as, well, simple, enough, as the internet, where you can reach from point A to point B without thinking about all the intermediate points where you need to go through, routing, doesn't exist in space. Just doesn't. If you want to talk to your satellite, you need to have a ground station. It's like it was a few years ago, a few decades ago, in the Earth, right? You needed to have a link between point A and point B to talk from A to B. So we just decided to start doing it, and so we started creating an equipment to build something that we like to call the GammaNet, and it's going to be launched in 2015. And what this will enable us to do is basically put satellites talking to each other and to the Earth, without you having to know where the communication flows through. So basically, you can talk to your ground station, from your ground station to your satellite, even if your satellite is half away across the world. So we just network it. It's routing. It's simple. We do it on the Earth with billions of nodes. Why not in space? So it's kind of simple. It's going to be launched in 2015. Gamma, by the way, it's really with one M, because we wanted to. Today you have all the space community excited about GammaNet, and most of them, what's fun to us is that most of them don't know where GammaNet comes from. But Gamma is really from Vasco da Gama. It's not from gamma rays, okay? So it's our little inside joke. So it's a lot of fun to hear directors from ESA talking about GammaNet, very advanced networking capability, yeah, but it's Vasco da Gama, it's not GammaNet. So it's our little dent in and that's space, not that universe. And we just look into the world and we see things where this concept could be applied. We just look at healthcare and well-being. With all the devices, pretty much we were having a conversation today about how people now, everybody loves to run, right? And how social networking has put everybody running. There's so much, we're still doing it individually. And if we get things to communicate to each other and to collaborate, we will just do more. Interfaces on the other side, these are all things we are investing right now. Interfaces on the other side. Today we have an interface. It's kind of stupid. If you look at a device, you still have to text and you still have to read. We should really have a direct interface between our brains, brain A and brain B, with computers in the middle, but without having to use our hands or our eyes. So this is the type of things we want to invest in, and we want to build new companies out of. Deep sea exploration. We're working in space. We have an entire space down there, and nobody's doing it. Or a few companies in the world are dominating that space. So these are the places where we're going to go. I hope 10 years from now I can be here and talking about these ventures and having drawings. We made the drawings trying to summarize in one image what we are doing. It's not really easy, but I hope we can have more drawings. And I just wanted to end with one sentence that I think has motivated us throughout these 13 years, which is the value of the ideas are in using them, in doing it. And if I can leave a piece of advice, it's this one. Thank you.